This channel's real, this channel's about documenting, this channel's about talking, having an open opinion. And let's get started. Say whoa, say whoa. Say whoa. Head of a horse, the body of a man. Unidentified flying object. Welcome back to another video. What's up, guys? It's me, Do Not Obey, and let's get into another video. Now, we're going to be talking about Hollyweird, okay? The weirdness that continues to go on in Hollywood. Now, these stories are on TikTok. They are alleged, but let me know what you guys think. I wouldn't be surprised if half of these stories were not absolutely 100% true. But like I always say, do not obey, stay woke. Peace.
A red carpet premiere with a friend of hers who's a model. The premiere wraps up, they go to an after party, and at the after party is a very prominent Hollywood actor. She says it's a household name, everybody knows who he is. He is significantly older than her. She's in her mid-20s. She said her and the actor were making eyes all night, but they didn't really talk except for once when they were at the bar at the same time, and he complimented her drink choice. Her and her friend decide to leave around 1:30 in the morning. They're walking toward the door. The actor is by the door. He stops them. He's like, "Where are y'all going?" She tells him they have no plans. He's like, "We should be friends on Instagram." So he adds her on Instagram. She's all excited about it, but doesn't really think anything comes of it. She said that she's used to being around very famous people and nothing ever happens. So they're in the Uber on the way back to her friend's house when he DMs her, and he's like, "Hey, if you want to keep this party going, you can come over to my place. I can send you a car." Her friend's like gassing her up. She's like, "Yes, girl, go get it." Like, she thinks they're gonna hook up. So she goes back to her friend's place. He sends an Uber to pick her up and takes her to a house in the hills. She says the Uber pulls up to a gate with an intercom system, and the Uber driver's like, "What do I do?" And she's like, "I don't even know if he knows my full name." So she tells the Uber driver his name. He's like, "Hey, I'm dropping off so-and-so," and there's just like silence on the other end of the intercom. So she DMs the guy. She's like, "Hey, I'm here." He DMs her back after like a minute, and he's like, "Okay, like just go in, you beat me home." She gets dropped off, walks up to the door, knocks on the door, and like the help, I guess, answers the door. She said when she got there, she was a little bit put off because there were other people there, and the help takes her phone and has her sign an NDA. And she said that she didn't recognize anybody that was there, but there were probably like 15 people all kind of scattered around the living room and the kitchen, just drinking and making themselves at home. A lot of them were sitting around boredly, just like in like quiet conversations with each other. So she just goes and like takes a seat. He walks in after about 15 minutes and goes like straight over to her, leads her to his bedroom. They hook up. She actually said it was very vanilla, very boring. She thinks she's gonna go. He's like, "Do you want to go to another party? There's something else happening tonight." And she's like, "Okay, sure." So he leads her down this back stairwell in the back corner of one of the rooms in his house, and it's like a warehouse type garage. He's got a bunch of cars parked down there, and they get in the back of this unmarked black SUV. She says the car is driving underground in tunnels for about 20 minutes, and she's trying to make like light conversation with him, like, "Where are we going? Like, who's
Underground tunnels.
party is this?" And he's just like, "Oh, it's a really good time. Like, you'll like it when we get there." But she said he was very stoic, like did not talk to her more than a few words at a time. The car pulls out of the tunnel and they are in front of this big warehouse. And she said she didn't recognize anything around it. She has no idea where they were. She said probably 20 minutes in any direction from the hills. It's still dark out. They walk up to the front of this warehouse. There's like big steel doors and there's a couple bouncers outside in like black suits. They open the doors, they let them in. And she said it's all red lit inside and the whole warehouse was sectioned off into different areas. To her immediate left when she walked in was a bar. To the right was a small circle with a short fence surrounding the circle, and in the middle of the circle was a woman. Outside the circle was a guy dressed as a bullfighter, and there were about 20 people watching this. So she looks at the actor and she's like, "What is this?" And he's like, "Oh, it's kind of like an art installation. Like there's just different spectacles to see." She said some areas were not that abnormal, like one area just had a tarot card reader. So there was another area with just some couches and speakers and a DJ, and in that area the DJ was just playing this like very electronic bass heavy music with metal noises, and there were people with power tools making sparks fly everywhere. I don't know. So they're just sitting in there having some drinks, listening to the music for a little while when she feels somebody tap her, and she turns around and there's a guy standing with a wolf mask on in like normal street clothes, but just like a giant wolf mask with the mouth open. And he's like, "Hey," and the actor she's with grabs her and like pulls her away. And she's like, "What was that?" And he's like, "You're not ready for that crowd yet." They're walking around looking at all the different installations or exhibits, I guess. And they get to like a far back corner. And she said there were two people, a man and a woman, and they were blindfolded. And in front of them on the floor was a bunch of broken glass. And she said when they got over there were like 40 people all standing around like watching them. And the people all watching them were encouraging them to like take steps forward. She said she looked down at their feet and could tell that at some points they had misstepped and stepped on broken glass. Both the man and the woman were standing still when somebody in the crowd dad threw a glass at them and was like, move. So she got upset at this point, and she like grabs the actor and she's like, I don't like this, like I want to go. And he tries to calm her down. He's like, everybody that is here willingly, like it's with consent, it's just an installation, I told you that. And she's like, I don't like this, it's creeping me out, like I want to leave. So he's reluctant, but he agrees. So they go back outside, they get in the black unmarked SUV and they start driving, but they don't go back in the tunnel. They're taking a different road, and she doesn't recognize anything. So they're driving for like 10 minutes. Mind you, she still doesn't have her phone, and they pull up to this gas station. The car stops. He's like, this is your stop. The driver hands her phone, and they're like, get out. She's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know where I am. He's like, get out. So she gets out of the car, and the car pulls away. She opens Insta to DM him, and he already has blocked her. So she has to call her own Uber. She said it took like 10 minutes for the guy to get there, and then it was 40 minutes till she got home. She said she's been wondering literally for like 2 years now what she saw at that party, especially with everything that's coming out about Hollywood. So she
was invited to a secret A-list celebrities party. There were things that happened at this party that were so dark and so terrible that I have been afraid to talk about it until now. This goes back to almost 7 years ago when I was living in Los Angeles. I was a struggling actress. I was working as a dancer at a club. At this club, we would get a lot of clients that were high profile, especially in the music industry. On one particular evening, we had this very high profile client come in and request a VIP room. I knew that this celebrity had a preference for Latina women, so when he requested a VIP room and actually requested me, I was quite surprised. And I went to do this VIP with a friend of mine that I worked with, did our job, did our thing, and at the end, he gave us a business card with his assistant's name and phone number and told us to call that number if we wanted to party after work that night. I was so not down for this, but the friend that I had done the VIP with told me that she's gone to one of his parties before and that he lives in the Hollywood Hills, has a really cool house. I was really apprehensive on going, but the night was really slow at the club that evening, so we actually ended up leaving early. I was not much of a party person or a drinker, so I was completely out of my element. I was literally there just for the bag. The party at this guy's house was not big or anything. I would say that there were probably less than 30 people in attendance, smoking and doing things that you can imagine are happening at celebrity parties. But one thing I couldn't help but notice is that amongst the people were some very, very young looking girls. At one point I look at my friend and I tell her, hey, like, don't some of these people look like way too young? That is when my friend told me that the assistant at the club wasn't the A-list celebrity's assistant. This guy is a recruiter. Basically what this person does is goes to parties, goes to clubs, and finds girls in a certain age range. That these young girls were being recruited to go to these parties not to just hang out, but to engage in other unlawful things. This is actually not something completely uncommon in Los Angeles. In fact, this is something that happens a lot. I was completely dumbfounded and disgusted. I ended up leaving that night and never looking back on the whole entire situation until years later I saw in a tabloid an accusation being made against this very celebrity of doing exactly what I just told you guys.
This whole Diddy situation is still just the beginning. I've been holding on to this Hollywood story for like 10 years. When I tell you, I first-handedly saw celebrities that you wouldn't even think need to finesse people into doing things. Alright, let me just spill it. Back in 2011, when Instagram first started, I was what was called an IG model. Lived in Miami, grew very fast, ended up on like club flyers and all that. I went by a different name. The one that you see down here today is literally because I wanted to switch it so they could never like really associate with me again. So they hit me up and they're like, hey, we want your help for this project. They get me on FaceTime with said celebrity. A celebrity that every woman loves. Mostly all. So I knew it was real. I knew it was, this person was right there, and later on I met them in person. There were different intentions. When I get to LA, they tell me that not only was I doing said innocent job, but I was also in charge of basically convincing girls, the same other professional models, to not only get with said celeb who doesn't really need help to get girls, like it's a handsome person, but his team as well. And I was just not with it. Got to escape that whole scenario the first visit, but then the second visit, it was the same thing all over again. A lot happened in the mix that I don't even want to bring up, and I once again did not want to do XYZ, so they hid my luggages. It was me and two other girls. I called the celebrity and I was like, where is my stuff? The hotel ended up finding it somewhere just hidden in the hotel. The whole gist of the story is I think everyone in Hollywood is just all trying to do you know what to whoever. And I feel like they actually enjoy getting with people that don't want to be with them rather than just sticking to people that want to be with them. Like it has to be like a pride thing, like a controlling, like I got you, like I don't know. They do try to blackmail you and make it seem as if this is like going to make or break your entire career, which I feel like to some people it may do so, but I was so early on, I'm like, this is nothing. I ended up deleting my entire Instagram, went years without an Instagram. Fast forward to 2018, I started a new Instagram, started in social media marketing, and here I am today. I already made over 7 figures in digital products from social media, just chilling at home and my PJs. And that is how I named myself Shyly. They wouldn't trace me back.
He was a YouTube talent. Him and his buddy were both high-level YouTube talents on the up and up, and they got recruited in LA where they lived by a sort of like a Freemason recruiter guy who invited them to a special party that he gave them a letter and said, like, you've been noticed, our enterprise is interested in acquiring your talents, come to this party at this time, da-da-da-da. And he talked to some of his other creator friends, and they were like super hyped. They're like, dude, if you get invited to that party, like everyone who goes to that party, their career takes off. Like, you're so lucky, you gotta go. So he's about to go, and he talks to one other creator guy who like goes white, pale in the face when he shows him the letter, and he's like, dude, under no circumstances ever attend that party. Do you understand me? Do not go to this party. So he starts to get nervous, and he tells his friend, like, I don't know, man, one of my other YouTube creator friends told me not to go to this party, and he got like ghost white. I don't know if I feel good about this. And his friend's like, oh, stop being a wuss, let's go, like let's figure it out ourselves. So they go to this party, they're all given these huge gold masks to put over their face, and he said there's celebrities everywhere. There's people I recognize, other influencers, pretty high level influencers are there. And guy gets up and he's like, all right, party is starting, here's how it's going to work. You're going to go from room to room, you're going to participate in certain events, it's going to be great, and at the end we're going to give you an opportunity to promote your career through our enterprise. So he said the descent begins at midnight.
Oh god.
The descent, huh? So basically, to make a long story short, he goes into rooms one by one that are representations of the 7 deadly sins. So the first room he goes into, I think, is like the room of like lust, and it's all these scantily clad women walking around and putting their hands all over you and like inviting you into these little rooms with curtains that you can cover up to do whatever you want to do. And he notices all these other people going right in and getting to work, you know, having orgies and stuff, and he's like super weirded out by it. And I think each room, you know, you're in there for like an hour or more. So there's like plenty of time to sin.
7 hours.
Yeah, so he's like, I started walking laps around the room to just keep myself moving, because if I stayed still for too long, women would come over and stuff. And then the bell rings, we go into the next room, and it's the room of gluttony, and there's people in there with like caviar and all this expensive food, and they're just shoving it in their face, like grabbing huge piles of really expensive food and just eating it like it's potato chips, right? And so he tries to abstain from eating the food, and this guy comes up to him and says, hey man, I encourage you to participate in the festivities because a slow drip is better than a flood.